And the White House is out in full force defending the administration's push to let the Bush tax cuts for wealthy Americans expire this year. Cuts, critics argue, would hinder economic growth.
Joining us with some perspective on what this could mean for the economy is Jean Sahadi, senior writer with CNNMoney.com. Let's first look at some of these numbers here and what we're talking about. So the Obama administration wants to let tax breaks expire for the highest earners, families earning somewhere around $250,000 a year and individuals making at least $200,000 a year. Now, if Congress allows the tax breaks to expire, that would mean that the top tax rate goes up to 39.6%. You see it there in 2011. And then from 33% up to 36%. Jean, how significant are these taxpayers? Because on the one hand, you have them saying it's only the top 2 or 3% of the population. On the other hand, you have them talking about paying down the deficit, which is outrageous. How significant are these taxpayers?
Well,
the economy?
The upper 2 or 3% of Americans are a significant group, but relative to the other 97%, we cannot balance the budget on the back of 2 or 3% of taxpayers. What Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner has said was this. And what people who support this expiration say, well, we're putting into place a deficit reduction mechanism. And there is a lot of push to start to do that. We can't do it all at once. But people shouldn't think, oh, yeah, that's fine. The people making more than $250, they've got it. We're done. Good. Not going to happen.
Well, Geithner was out of the Sunday talk shows yesterday defending the administration's plan to let these tax cuts expire. Let's listen to what he said about it.
Now, we also think it's responsible to let the tax cuts expire that just go to 2 to 3% of Americans, the highest earning Americans. We think that's the responsible thing to do because we need to make sure we can show the world that we're willing as a country now to start to make some progress bringing down our long-term deficits.
You know, raising taxes to pay down the deficit or cut the deficit and begin to rein in the exploding debt is an idea that's gaining traction. Alan Greenspan says, hey, don't just raise taxes on wealthy Americans, raise taxes on everybody. But what about cutting spending?
Well, exactly. Tax and deficit experts both say you have to do both. And in fact, Erskine Bowles, who runs the President's Fiscal Commission, has said that he kind of finds it interesting how the British did it. In their debt reduction plan, they've leaned more heavily on spending, about 75% of spending cuts and 25% in tax increases. So we're not at all there in terms of making that decision. But the tax cuts, the reason Alan Greenspan said that was we can't afford the $3 trillion it would cost to extend them for everybody or the $2.2 trillion it would cost to extend them for most people. There is a push to pay for them. If we do extend the Bush tax cuts for the upper income families, under pay-go rules, they're actually going to have to find the $700 billion or so somewhere else to pay for the cost of doing that. So it's a hard decision for lawmakers. Even if they wanted to do it, they're going to have to pony up somewhere else. And that's not going to lead to a popular decision, however they decide to pay for it.
And of course, we're talking not just about people who are considered wealthy, and we're talking about small businesses, are we not, in this tax bracket? And a lot of people will say that small businesses are really important to the economy, and this is going to hurt them, make them possibly lay people off, or certainly make them worry about their bottom lines.
Exactly. So the two arguments about small business is this, just what you said. Small businesses pay those top 2 income tax rates, so if you raise them, you're hurting the guy who owns the small business. People who say, not so much, it's really not going to have that much of an effect because only 3% of small businesses file at the top 2 rates. And while they account for about 50% of all net small business income, some say that a big percentage, or at least a significant percentage of that 50% pot is from businesses that you wouldn't ordinarily associate with job-creating small businesses, things like investment partnerships or law firms. So that's kind of a dogfight that people are going to be having.
Let's take a moment and look at where the economy is going. You have Ben Bernanke on one hand saying that this country is fraught with economic uncertainty. He's not sure how things are going to turn out. But then Tim Geithner says, don't think that there's going to be a double-dip recession. The economy will continue to recover over the next year or two. Who's right? What are you hearing?
Well, what I hear from everybody is that we still have economic growth, but it's slow, and it's probably going to remain slow going forward. So the jury is out on whether there's a double-dip recession, but economists like Mark Zandi, who has consulted both Democrats and the Republicans, he told me he thinks there's a better than even chance we won't have a double-dip recession. But he also thinks we ought to extend the tax cuts for the middle class and only gradually phase them out for upper income, maybe do it over a couple of years because he thinks the economy is too fragile right now. So I think Ben Bernanke and Tim Geithner are talking about the economy from different perspectives. Ben Bernanke has to signal to the markets about rates and the like. Tim Geithner has to talk sort of more broadly about the economy and confidence. And
Yeah.
so
Well, talk about a rock and a hard place, though. You know,
that's where we
going
live
up,
now for
can't
the
really
next few
raise
decades.
taxes, according to some people. So
Yeah.
here we go. Gene Sahadi, great. Thanks. For
Thank
being
you.
with us.
Thanks for
Thank
joining
you.
us.